Good morning, guys. Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to another day of Dairy Sheep here at the Diary of a Dairy Sheep Farmer. I am Becca, your host, and as of the posting of this recording, we are 8 days away from lambing, which means I need to get my button gear and start getting all of my stuff put together. I need to do a barn clean out, which will probably happen uh probably not this weekend, but next weekend, which will be, let's see, that'll be the 7th, 6th and 7th. So that will happen. I'll have to cut my breeding groups a little bit short. They're supposed to get pulled out on the 9th, so they'll get pulled out on the 6th. A couple days isn't going to hurt anything, hopefully. Um, And then I will need to figure out a place to put my lambs and my ewes because they are not quite ready to be weaned and I'm out of room. Can't put them out back and I don't really know where I'm going to put them yet. So I will need to figure out, but barn clean out is on the docket for just before we have to bring the ewes in to start lambing. And then I will have, once the barn is cleaned out, I will have to bring all the sheep in, separate out who is going to lamb, get them in the barn, and that brings us to today's topic, my lambing supplies. I am not going to admit how long I spent down in our tack room, which is where I have my husband bought me a Rubbermaid storage closet type thing a couple years ago to store all my stuff in. And of course, instead of storing it in there, it's kind of scattered in the barn and in the tack room and on the floor and on the counter and in the shop and everywhere it's not supposed to be. So I made a lovely, lovely list of everything that I have scattered throughout the farm and then what I actually use. And surprisingly, that list is extremely longer than I thought it was going to be. I have added to it over the years. I used to keep just your standard, your gloves, your syringes, um, your needles, uh, tags. I'm sure there's more stuff, but just your standard things that, if you Google online, lambing supplies, and it gives you, 10 or 15 different things of just your standard things that people keep on hand. Um, my list is a little longer than that. I've added to it because I found more things in my pile of mess that I have. Now, granted, some of it I don't use. And this list is only what I use. I didn't actually put on here the stuff that I have down there that I don't use. So let's go over what I actually have that may or may not be what you have or what you care to have. But some of the standards, colostrum and milk replacer, those and electrolytes. Those are like top three for lambing. Um, there's no rhyme or reason to this, guys. I don't have it separated out into any kind of, your pre-lambing, your post-lambing, your during lambing, your I don't have I'm not that organized. Um, but those are my top three because I am always in need of those. I always have orphan lambs, no matter how hard I try not to. I'm always going to have some. Um, and I always want to keep colostrum in hand in case I have a ewe that hasn't come into her milk yet. And I want to make sure I get that colostrum in that lamb. Sometimes it's frozen from the previous year. Sometimes it's just whatever bagged colostrum I get at the store. but I always have that on hand. And then milk replacer for my orphans. I do have a milk machine that I bought several years ago. I haven't had to use it for, I know I didn't use it at all last year because I didn't have that many bottle babies to justify turning it on. I can't remember if I used it the year before, but I do have one so that if I need it for an excess amount of orphans, but I have the milk replacer just for my orphan lambs. Um, and then electrolytes for my ewes just to give them that boost if needed. And then I do have a little handheld portable blender that I use to mix my colostrum and my milk for my bottles because it's so much easier than trying to mix it in the bottles or in a bucket. That's just a personal preference. And then we have our meat or our bottles and our nipples. I prefer the Pritchard nipples over the other ones, any other ones, personal preference. Okay, what else do we got? We have, I prefer my ewes to clean off their lambs on their own. So I don't keep blankets to clean off the lambs, but I do keep them for a like a warming box. I have a old whelping box that we used for when we used to have our dachshunds. So it's perfect lamb size. And I have a heat pad for underneath. And then I have blankets that I put over the lamb with a heat lamp on top. And it's a perfect insulated. It works fabulous for my lambs. So I use that as a warming box, heating box, whatever you want to call it. So I do use that. So that's a heat pad, a cover, and a bed for to warm up the lambs for anything that is cold. Normally our Februaries here in Idaho are fairly chilly. This year I don't know that we're going to get it that way because we're 50 degrees and that is very odd, which makes me very concerned of what it's going to turn out like come maybe mid-February and March when I'm in middle of lambing my later groups. So, like I said, I don't use blankets. I don't use lamb covers. Um, do I have them? Yes, because once upon a time, I thought they'd be a good thing that I might use them because we do get very cold. I used to lamb in December and January, and now I don't because it's too dang cold here. So they are just sitting, taking up space in my tack room, and I don't use them. So I prefer heat lamps if it gets very cold because then I can turn them off. I don't want the lambs to get dependent on that heat. They need to get acclimated to our weather. So that's why I don't use the blankets. I don't use the lamb covers, and I don't keep the heat on them for more than a day or two or three if needed. Vaccinations. So with our ewes and our lambs, we do an 8-way that has CD&T in it because I have dealt with tetanus in lambs before, and it is a horrible, horrible thing. And I will never, ever not give my lambs the CD&T and watch them go through that ever again. Never. So that is all my lambs get that. All my ewes get a booster every year. And then this is a controversial. This is just what we do on our farm that works for us. All my ewes get dewormed yearly. We switch out our dewormer every 2 years, and so far it has worked for us because my sheep are out on pasture 95% of the time. You do you. This is just what works on our farm, and it does work on our farm. So We also do, we keep penicillin on hand. We keep LA 200 on hand. I have dextrose on hand, which I just started keeping last year because it was needed. I'm not a pure pressure type of person, but I I finally gave in and decided that was something I really needed to be keeping on hand for my lambs that were just too cold and I couldn't get warmed up fast enough. So I do keep that on hand. And then needles and syringes. I do keep syringes in several different sizes depending on what I'm giving. But I think that is all I do for. Oh, and we do keep Corid on hand because we had several years ago, um, one of our renters ended up having a very, very bad case of coccidiosis in his lambs, his lamb flock. And he did not tell us that he had coccidiosis in his lamb flock. So, and he had his lambs in our barn. So now it is in my barn. And I struggled with it for a couple of years. And now I have been free of it. I have not had it in a lamb crop for 2 years, I think. I could be wrong. My memory is really bad. If I don't write stuff down, I just I can't remember. So I could be wrong, but I think it's 2 years. Um, but I always keep it on hand just in case. So that is what I have for medicines for my sheep. And then we do keep vet wrap and splints and gauze. Again, depending on what type of wound. If we have crooked legs, we can splint them and wrap them. If somebody gets a scrape from a fence, I can slather on some goo and wrap it. And then that way we can take care of that. The normal things we keep on hand, we do have gloves. We have the up to your shoulder gloves. We also have just regular hand gloves. I keep a thermometer, I keep a scalpel, I keep scissors. I have a scale and a harness to be able to weigh my lambs, which I was really good at for a while. And then once I get into things, I tend to forget. Had like halfway through lambing, I start forgetting to start to weigh my lambs. So sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm not so great at it. But I do have that to weigh them. And then we have an ear notcher to notch the ears of our ewes that we keep. And this started when I don't use it quite as much as I used to, but we started this when we were mixing our flock with renters' flocks and everything was going out on pasture. And I wanted to make sure that I got my own sheep back. And so now I use it mainly so that my husband doesn't sell the sheep that I plan to keep. So anything that I'm keeping gets an ear notch. That way, when they come in from out back and he starts wanting to sell things, I can say, nope, that one has a notch in its ear. It's a keeper. Don't sell it. So we do have that. I keep RFID tags and a tagger for all my mature ewes. They get that. And then for my lambs, I know a lot of people use like spray paint. I don't. It's just a personal preference. My lambs get their own personal tag with their mom's number written on it. I use red tags for girls and blue tags for boys. And I just tag them. And then when the girls that I want to keep, usually about weaning time, I will pull those tags and they will get their adult tag with their RFID number and their permanent number. Oh, I do have tattooing supplies. I have kind of given up on that one. Um, once I started going to the RFID tags, I stopped tattooing. I really should get back to it because my sheep tend to lose tags out in the trees and in the fencing and in the creeks. And it's probably something I really just need to start doing again, but I have not. But I do have the supplies for it. I have rubber rings and a bander for tails and nuts. Oh, I have a tooth file. I don't think I've ever used it, but I found it when I was going through the whole mess of stuff at the barn. Um, it's probably a good thing to have on hand because we all know some lambs do have sharp teeth that can cause a ewe to reject them. So I will put it into my little, I have a little tote that I keep with me when I'm dealing with lambs. And I will put that in there so that I can, now whether I will use it or not is a whole different story, but I will have it. That way, if I do have a lamb with sharp teeth, I can file them down a little bit, hopefully catch it before it's too late, before mom completely rejects them, if that is the issue. And then hopefully keep that from becoming an issue. So I do have that. I do have a tuber in case I have to tube lambs. I keep a lube just in case I need to pull a lamb. Um, do I ever really use it? No, because by the time I see a ewe in distress, I don't have time. I've seen people, you know, oh, you got to have your lube, you got to have your lamb pullers, get your gloves on. I'm not that put together. I see a ewe in distress, needing that lamb pulled, and I'm lucky if I even get my camera put where it needs to be for my YouTube channel for people to see what I'm doing. It's usually a after the fact. I'm more worried about getting that lamb out, saving it and the mom than trying to find, I don't even have lamb pullers. I don't think I've ever had them. But yeah, you can just grab some rope if you need to tie onto a ewe or a lamb, their feet and pull them out. I just use my hands. Um, and then lube will help maybe loosen stuff and get that lamb to slide out. But again, I've never used it. I just dive right in and do my best to get that lamb out before there's any serious issues. So, but I do keep it on hand just in case, because you never know, I might actually like one day remember to grab it. And I do use it during breeding when we sink the ewes and we use cedars and out of season breeding. So I also do have a prolapse harness and the spoon and that whole thing just in case. I have used it once or twice. I'm not very good at it because it always tends to fall out, but I do have it. So have it if I need it. I also have a suture kit, which I just added last year because we had, and it's the first time I've ever had it, and I had it twice last year, which again is concerning. I don't know the rhyme or reason for it, but last year I had two lambs that were born basically with their intestines coming out through uh, where their umbilical cord, belly button was hooked. Um, and I don't know, I don't know. I've never had that before in 12, 10, 11 years of lambing. Let's see, this will be my 12th year of lambing. So last year was 11th year. And I don't know. I don't know. So I don't know what brought that on. And I lost one of them and the other one we were able to stitch it back up and save her. But I, so yeah, it was it was something I needed to put into my lambing kit supplies because you just never know if you're going to need it. So I never knew I was going to need it. 10 years of lambing, I'd never needed it before, but now I have it in case I need it again. So I did put in a suture kit just because. I do have an easy milker. What are they called? An utterly easy milker. Just to save my hands when I do need to strip out a ewe for whatever reason. If she's lost a lamb and I want to collect the colostrum or her milk, if I have a ewe with an overabundance amount of milk, if she only had a single, but I know she has enough to feed several lambs, then I can strip her out and collect what she has so that I can save that milk for later. It just saves my hands some time. Uh, Last year I put in or I bought a Brix refractometer. Uh, and my husband has one for his saltwater fish, and it's just to check the salinity of his fish tank. And so I bought one for it's specifically made for colostrum to to check your um, basically your fat in your colostrum. And so I bought it and it sat on my counter in my house all through lambing, all summer long, and I never used it once. So now it is in the barn in my kit so that I can see how good of a colostrum, if somebody has better, if somebody has worse. Um, Basically, it's just for my own peace of mind. It really doesn't do a darn thing except for give me a better idea of what my ewes are producing. And then I do have a lamb bucket. I don't, it's just if I have for some odd reason, because we all know in my world, I have sheep that will decide to drop a ewe out in the pasture when they're not even supposed to be pregnant. So I have a tote with some string on it that I can take out there, plop the lambs in, and bring mom and lambs all the way back into the barn so that I don't have to carry the lambs all the way in and hope mom follows. So it's just a little easier for me to manage in bringing everybody in without it hurting my back and my arms. And that has been a lifesaver for me simply because sometimes it's a long ways from where they drop their lambs to where the barn is. I do keep some shears. Usually I make my husband do it because I am scared to death I'm going to cut a ewe, but we keep the shears in close to the barn to clean up the ewes around there, basically to crutch them, to clean them up so that lambs have better access to their udder. We got through almost half the flock last year in shearing. I was pretty proud of us. This year, where we have downsized, I'm sitting just under 150 ewes, and so we should be able to get through all of them this year. Crossing my fingers and doing a lot of praying. We should. That is going to be our April goal. The whole month of April, all we're going to do is shear, and our goal is to get through the entire flock. Now, that's not counting the rams. If I add the rams in there, that's another 20 heads, so 160-ish sheep. But I'm hoping that we can get through everybody in the month of April um, and get everybody sheared. Just cross your fingers, pray for me, because we really want to get through everybody this year. And then, oh, I forgot, we do keep molasses. I started this, several years ago, giving a little bit of molasses and some warm water to the ewes after they lamb. And it just kind of gives them that little bit of extra boost. I don't do it on every ewe, but I do it on the ones that seem to have a little harder labor, or the ones that seem to have maybe not the best body condition, or had some type of issue of one type or another. It just seems to give them that little bit of boost, just to help them through. And so I think I give maybe like a half a gallon of water and a quarter cup of molasses. And it's just warm water, just mix it, put it in. I also use the molasses if I'm trying to put a lamb onto a ewe, if I'm trying to graft a lamb onto a ewe. And I can do this in two ways. I do have an Orphan head gate where I can stick the mom's head in there, and then I can throw the lamb in with the mom, and then that ewe can't beat that lamb up. And within, a couple days of getting that milk, that mom's milk into that lamb, the lamb will start smelling like that mom, and the mom will usually take it. Not always, but usually. Sometimes it takes a couple weeks. Um, but if I only have one of those, so if I have a couple of ewes that I need to graft lambs onto, I will use some of the molasses. I will stick it on the mom's head and on the lamb's head, and sometimes it works very, very well. And like the Orphan gate, sometimes it doesn't. But I do have that for that reason. And then the last thing I have is my Gallagher, which I use it to record the information on for all of my sheep. And then I do have my phone that I keep track of who lambed, what they had, so that I can put all the information into the program on my computer and onto I have several places that I keep. I have my sheep book, which is right here. This has this is only, let's see, 23, 24, and 25. I have another one that has everything from 2014 to 2021. And then that's all my paper copies. And then I have my copies on the computer. I have my copies on my phone. I have my copies on my Gallagher, which are also on the computer. I have multiple copies in case something goes wrong. But that is the extent of my lambing list. So if you have something on your list that is different than my list, let me know. If I am forgetting something, let me know. If I should be adding something, let me know. Because I am always up for adding more stuff to my list because I that's I did forget something. My resuscitator. A couple years ago, probably 4 years ago, um, I forget who it was a YouTuber I was watching. She had a resuscitator for her lambs, and I thought it was like absolutely brilliant. And so again, I'm not easily influenced, but this was one of those that I thought this was, how do you not have one? If you have a lamb that comes out not breathing, how do you not try to save it if there is even the slightest chance? So I went and I bought one. They were not cheap. It was not cheap, but I have used it a couple times, and I have managed to save a couple lambs. And so I use that, and it has like a little cone that goes over their mouth, and you just um, pull back the lever, and it sucks all the goo out of their nose and their lungs, and it works great in my opinion. So I do have that on hand, and I keep that, and I use that, and that I think is the end of my lambing supplies. So again, if there is something that you have in your lambing supplies that I do not have in mine, I will go ahead and put this list in the show notes. And if there is something that I am missing, let me know. And if there's something you have that I don't have that I should have, please let me know. So next, let's see, this will post on the 4th. So by the next episode, we should be lambing. We should be in full swing of lambing. So we'll go ahead and start our lambing episodes and let you know the good, the bad, the ugly, and hopefully there will be none. Hopefully it will be all good. There will be no issues. There will be no surprises. Everything will flow smoothly, and we'll take you along for the ride. If you follow me over on YouTube at Hidden Hollow Sheep Dairy, you can watch all of the chaos that is over there, and yeah, just keep updated with what we have going on. So thanks for being here, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.